Functional assessment is the general label used to describe a set of processes for defining the events in an environment that reliably predict and maintain problem behaviors. The next slide will show us what the completion of a functional behavior assessment will provide for us.
We first need to develop a clear operational description of the problem behavior or behaviors. This means that our definition describes exactly what happens without opinion or assumption and is written in such a way that anyone can clearly identify the behavior. This is necessary as we take data on behavior and work with our team. We all want to be on the same page. For example, Josh throws a fit when he can't get the toy he wants is not an operational definition. A better definition would be, Josh cries and hits his head on the table hard enough to leave a red mark. We're specific and we're not making an assumption about the function or cause. Completion of an FBA will help us identify events predictive of the problem behavior. For example, we've taken some data and have determined that the problem occurs most often after Josh has been unable to obtain a specific toy. The consequences, or what happens after a problem behavior, typically serve to maintain the behavior. In this case, our data shows us that the children usually give Josh the toy he wants. From the collected data, a summary statement may be developed. The summary statement for Josh may read something like this. When Josh does not have access to a preferred toy, he hits his head on a solid surface hard enough to leave a red mark and is then given the toy. We can come up with a behavior plan that has a very good chance of working with this summary statement or hypothesis. We'll describe collection of behavioral data a little more fully later. Let's now go to resource number 1 for day 3 and review operational definitions. There are 10 definitions of challenging behavior. Mark the definitions that can be measured and do not include opinion or assumption with a plus for operational, and the definitions that cannot be observed and measured by multiple people with a minus as not operational. Pause here and complete this now. When you have finished, resume the slide presentation. Billy runs through open doors, classroom, outside, other classrooms, 6 times per week. This is an operational definition because it tells us exactly what happens. All staff members could measure this. When Henry is mad about something that has happened in the classroom, he throws a fit. This is not an operational definition as it includes opinion and does not specifically describe the behavior. What is a fit? What does it look like? Julie does not move from her current spot without physical assistance from an adult. This happens at the change of each activity during the morning session, about 5 times per session. Yes, this is operational. The school playground is divided into 2 areas that are not defined by fencing. One area is for preschoolers, the other area is for elementary children. Ian wanders into the elementary playground area 2 to 3 times per outdoor recess. Yes, this gives enough specific information to measure. Macy likes to control what is going on around her, and if she does not get her way, she knocks over toys. No, this is not operational as the staff member has made an assumption. James bites his hand hard enough to leave a red mark 7 to 8 times per day. Yes, we can measure this. Jill throws books and other classroom materials against the wall, leaving dents in the wallboard 2 to 3 times per week. We can also measure this one. Here's the next one. Katie wanders the classroom during free time, not settling on a specific activity. The teacher thinks she does not get enough sleep at home. Again, we have a poorly written definition that includes opinion. John pinches other classmates by grabbing their arms and using 2 of his fingers hard enough to leave red marks. He does this 3 to 5 times per day. This one is okay. It's measurable and specific. Sadie only likes juice at snack. When she doesn't get what she wants, she deliberately spills the drink. Oh dear, you can tell this staff member is not happy with the behavior, but making assumptions just isn't helpful.
O'Neill and Horner outline 3 ways to collect information for a functional behavior assessment. The first is the Informant Method. A questionnaire is useful here, and there's a good example titled Functional Assessment Interview, or FAI, in the O'Neill book. There are many other forms available and can be easily accessed on the internet. Basically, the interview should include the description of the behavior or behaviors of concern and ask about events that predict or set up the behavior, such as the time of day, sleep patterns, the amount of support available, the requests made of the child, etc. The questionnaire should also probe for consequences that typically occur after the behavior, such as redirection, timeout, or other events. It is important to know about the history of the behavior, the intensity of the behavior, and don't forget to ask when the behavior does not occur. Valuable information in helping us design a support plan later. Additionally, there are several easily accessible screening tools based on information from others. One is the FAST, or the Functional Assessment Screening Tool. You're encouraged to review this through the link on your slide now. Remember, this is a screening tool only, but it will help you narrow your thoughts as to what the function of a challenging behavior might be.
Direct observation is another method for gaining information to complete the functional behavior assessment. Once the behavior has been described, we can take data to determine what happens before the behavior and what happens after the behavior. This is called ABC charting and is often used when collecting information for the FBA. We'll show examples of ABC charting soon. We can take data in other ways too. We might use simple event recording, where we indicate the number of times a behavior occurs. This is often expanded into a scatter plot, which also gives us information on when the behavior occurs throughout the day. It is important to think about the behavior of concern, as there are multiple strategies for taking data. For example, if the interfering or challenging behavior is that the child takes a long time to respond to questions, you might want to take data on the time between a question and a response. This is latency recording. Maybe the challenging behavior involves some sort of meltdown. It only occurs once or twice per week, but lasts a very long time. You might want to focus on duration recording rather than only event recording. There are numerous ways to take data on challenging behavior, but the important point is to match your data-taking strategy with the behavior. Also very helpful and necessary is to interpret your data through graphing or some other visual display. This aids in making database decisions as you develop and implement your behavior support plan.
We're not going into depth in this workshop on functional analysis manipulations, but this is the process of testing your hypothesis for the likely function of the behavior. This is particularly important when the informant and direct observation methods don't yield information sufficient to develop a hypothesis, and you need further inquiry. If a behavior plan is implemented with integrity and the behavior is not changing, your data may have suggested the wrong hypothesis. You may not have chosen an appropriate replacement behavior, or your reinforcement schedule may not be sufficient. Changing these variables one at a time amounts to functional analysis manipulation.